Brother, if you want to understand a little about the talisman of the world's purpose and the riddle of man's creation and the mystery of the reality of the prescribed prayers, then consider this short comparison together with my own soul. One time there was a king. As wealth he possessed numerous treasuries containing diamonds and emeralds and jewels of every kind. Besides these he had other, hidden, wondrous treasuries. By way of attainment he had consummate skill in strange arts, and encompassing knowledge of innumerable wondrous sciences, and great erudition in endless branches of abstruse learning. Now, like every possessor of beauty and perfection wants to see and display his own beauty and perfection, that glorious king wanted to open up an exhibition and set out displays within it in order to make manifest and display in the view of the people the majesty of his rule, his glittering wealth, the wonders of his art, and the marvels of his knowledge, and so that he could behold his beauty and perfection in two respects. The first respect, so that he himself could behold his beauty and perfection with his own discerning eye. The other, so that he could look through the view of others. With this purpose in mind, the king started to construct a vast and majestic palace. He divided it into magnificent apartments and dwellings, and decorated it with every sort of jewel from his treasuries, and with his own hand so full of art adorned it with the finest and most beautiful works. He ordered it with the subtlest of the arts of his wisdom, and decked it out with the miraculous works of his knowledge. Then after completing it, he set up in the palace broad tables containing the most delicious of every kind of food and every sort of bounty. He specified an appropriate table for each group. He set out such a munificent and artful banquet it was as though the boundless priceless bounties he spread out had come into existence through the works of 100 subtle arts. Then he invited his people and subjects from all the regions of his lands to feast and to behold the spectacle. Later the king appointed a supreme commander as teacher, to make known the purposes of the palace and the meanings of its contents, to describe its maker and its contents to the people, make known the secrets of the palace's embellishments, teach what the arts within it were pointing to, and to explain what the well-set jewels were, and the harmonious embroideries, to explain to those who entered the palace the way in which they indicated the perfections and arts of the palace's owner, to inform them of the correct conduct in beholding them, and to explain the official ceremonies as the king, who did not appear, wished them to be. The teacher and instructor had an assistant in each area of the palace, while he himself remained in the largest apartment among his students, making the following announcement to all the spectators. He told them, "O people, by making this palace and displaying these things our Lord, who is the king of the palace, wants to make himself known to you. You therefore should recognize him and try to get to know him, and with these adornments he wants to make himself loved by you. You, too, make yourself loved by him by appreciating his art and admiring his works. Also, he shows his love for you through these bounties that you see, so you should love him too by obeying him, and through these bounties and gifts which are to be seen he shows his compassion and kindness for you, so you should show your respect for him by offering thanks, and through these works of his perfection he wants to display his transcendent beauty to you, so you should show your eagerness to see him and gain his regard, and through placing a particular stamp and special seal and an inimitable signet on every one of these adorned works of art that you see, he wants to show that everything is particular to him, and is the work of his own hand, and that he is single and unique and independent and removed. You therefore should recognize that he is single and alone and without peer or like or match, and accept that he is such." He spoke further fitting words to the spectators like these concerning the king and this station. Then the people who had entered the palace separated into two groups. The first group, since these people had self-knowledge, were intelligent, and their hearts were in the right place, when they looked at the wonders inside the palace, they declared, "There are great matters afoot here." They understood that it was not in vain or some trifling plaything. They were curious, and while wondering, "I wonder what the talisman to this is and what it contains," they suddenly heard the speech the master and instructor was giving, and they realized that the keys to all the mysteries were with him. So they approached him and said, "Peace be upon you, O master. By rights, a truthful and exact instructor like you is necessary for a magnificent palace such as this. Please tell us what our Lord has made known to you." First of all the master repeated the speech to them. They listened carefully, and accepting it, profited greatly. They acted as the king wished, and because the king was pleased at their becoming conduct and manners, he invited them to another special, elevated, ineffable palace, and he bestowed it on them in a way worthy of such a munificent king, and fitting for such obedient subjects, and suitable for such well-mannered guests, and appropriate to such an elevated palace. He made them permanently happy. As for the second group, because their minds were corrupted and their hearts extinguished, when they entered the palace, they were defeated by their evil commanding souls and took notice of nothing apart from the delicious foods. They closed their eyes to all the virtues and stopped up their ears to the guidance of the master and the warnings of his students. They stuffed themselves like animals then sank into sleep. They quaffed elixirs which had been prepared for certain other matters and were not to have been consumed. Then they became drunk and started shouting so much they greatly upset the other spectating guests. They were ill-mannered in the face of the glorious maker's rules, so the soldiers of the palace's owner arrested them, and cast them into a prison appropriate to such unmannerly people. O friend who is listening to this story with me, of course you have understood that the glorious ruler built this palace for the above-mentioned aims.